Pastors of Pain show, coming to you live from God's country, Stillwater, Oklahoma, and still missing, sad day, Father Brian O'Brien, the pastor of St. Francis Xavier at 711 North Country Club. I'm Father Kerry here, the pastor of St. John Catholic Student Center at the corner of Miller and Knobloch. If you haven't been out here in a while, I would encourage you to check us out on social media. SFX Stillwater for St. Francis Xavier, and you can find all that stuff and get connected with all the awesome stuff that's going on this summer on their schedule and the ministry that not only for Catholics but for those people who are interested in just like discovering more about Catholicism. Father Brian O'Brien's got this catechism on every Saturday after Mass, and St. John Catholic Student Center's got summer campus ministry going on. You know, we have Mass every day. Iron Monk, they have trivia nights. Every Sunday, we do a little sporting event together, all the college students. So if you're out there and you're like, the summertime is not a time I typically grow in my faith life. I usually take a little break. Well, this summer ain't the summer to do that. So come on over. Anyway, I have a special guest in the studio audience. Studio audience? No, not. There is no studio. There's a studio, and the audience is me and Dawn. Well, Dawn and hey, so there's no really studio audience. Okay, back on track. So we brought in another guest last week. We brought in Chris Petrin, PhD student, getting his master's degree, and we talked about the incarnation and tried to go really, 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 really deep on one subject matter because I think people kind of dismiss the incarnation as just like, well, it's just an event in history and it happened. No, it changed all of history, the incarnation. And you can study a little more of that. I encourage you to do that. Today, Trevor Allee. Welcome to Pastors of Pain. A round of applause for Trevor Allee. There's much rejoicing. Trevor, howdy.
Hello, Father. How are you?
I'm super wonderful, and I'm gonna lead you. I'm gonna lead Trevor through this little conversation because I described him the other day. I said, "Yeah, I'm having Trevor Allee on the show," and someone said, "Who?" They said, "Trevor Allee," and they're like, "Who's he?" And I said, he's like maybe 6'1", 6'2", blonde hair, white guy. And they're like, okay, you just described like 20 other guys. And I started describing, and then someone said, does he have a Our Lady of Guadalupe tat on his left forearm? And I said, yeah. And they said, you could have actually started with that, Father. You could have started with guy who's got an incredibly awesome Our Lady of Guadalupe tat on his left forearm. So, Trevor Allee, you have a Lady of Guadalupe tat on your left forearm. We're not starting there, though. So why I wanted to bring you in is someone sent me a video of you talking about your conversion to Catholicism. And then below, someone circled on the picture like 25,000 views. Is that right?
It's a little bit more than that, but yeah.
Well, how many? Be humble right now and just go ahead and tell us.
It's last time I checked, it was around 46,000.
46,000 people watched your conversion story.
Yeah.
And so, do you know why they watched your conversion story?
No. I originally just made it for family and friends. So if they asked why you became Catholic, I just could send that video. Job done. Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't want to repeat your story over and over and over again. You're just like, here, just watch this.
Not really, but here we are right now.
So your mom watched it 46,000 times. Is that what you're saying?
No, my parents weren't one of the people I sent it to. I don't even know if they know it exists.
Really?
Really. So
your little sister or brother or maybe 9,000 cousins watched it, 3,000 times each?
No.
No?
Based on the comments, people from all over watched that thing.
Watched it, really?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your conversion story so that we can get a grasp of why people thought it was so great. Like, where did you grow up? Where are you from? Are you an Okie, or are you one of those other people, lowlanders, that are not an Okie? Go ahead.
Yeah, so, I was born in Tulsa, but I grew up...
Go T-Town!
But I grew up in a small little town called Pauls Valley.
Well, everybody knows where Pauls Valley is.
Everybody knows where Pauls Valley is. South Central Oklahoma.
Why does everybody know where Pauls Valley is right now?
Because of the construction. Is that where you're going?
That's right.
Yeah.
There's just a massive construction there.
Yeah, it's a big backup anytime you go down there.
Yeah. Okay, so you grew up in Pauls Valley, and what was your faith life growing up in Pauls Valley?
So when I was pretty little, we went to a Methodist church, and then maybe when I was like 12, we switched over to a non-denominational church that was, largely Pentecostal. We went to church pretty much every Sunday. It was kind of just something I took for granted. Going into high school, I went to church, but I don't know how serious about my faith life I was. Sure. Well, I'll just say I just wasn't serious about it.
Okay, that's honest.
My junior year in high school, I was pretty miserable, to be honest, and that was a combination of things, but a lack of relationship with God was one of those things.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there was faith going on in, I wouldn't call it like full on like Christian disciple, like I've given my life to the Lord and I am a holy, virtuous man filled with the Holy Spirit, ready to share the gospel and die for the Lord. It was more like, I'm a Christian and I've been baptized and that's about it.
Yeah, I went to church. I didn't do drugs. I thought that was about it.
You didn't murder people.
That's right.
So you didn't. There's two commandments you didn't violate. So
there we go.
We're covered there. Wow, congratulations. If that's the measuring bar of Christianity, I am a saint right now. Thank you, Trevor, for canonizing me on the radio.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so there you go. So you got high school and then what? Why are you now hanging out with a priest in a radio station? What happened between then and? Because that was you're 20 what? 22?
21.
You're 21.
I am 21, yeah.
So that was 3 and some change years ago.
Yeah. As I said, I was pretty miserable and I wanted to change something. And I realized I was living a pretty two-faced life. I was one person at church and another person outside of church. And so I just wanted to get serious about it. And my sister actually invited me to go to a Christian summer camp up outside Tulsa that she'd been going to since she was a little kid. Whoa. Every year. Now she was like a summer counselor. It was my last year to go before you
were coming here to OSU that next summer?
No, I would just hit the age limit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was before my senior year in high school, the summer before.
Got it.
And so she says, go. I was like, all right, I'll go. And it was there that I got baptized and just kind of tried to take things seriously. So, I just read the New Testament. That's what I had. And so I just read it, a lot. Sweet. And just kind of just went through it. And going into my senior year in high school, I wanted to try and change some things. So I found, we got a new youth pastor at this church I was going to. And so me and him sat down several times and he really tried to pour into me and tried to change my life around.
Share the gospel, help you become a virtuous man, be filled with the gifts of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that's kind of how I would say my real journey with Christ started right there. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so that guy is like helping you, become a holy man and taking on the life of Christ. And then what's next? You finish your senior year of high school out, play football, run track, and then.
Yeah, well, during my senior year, as I'm starting to take my faith seriously, I had another friend who invited me to his church, and it was Church of Christ, and I went to his service, and they don't use instruments, right? And I came from this very charismatic church that, almost like a rock concert at times. And so I went in that.
Pentecostal.
Yeah, stepped into that and was like, wow, like that was really boring was like my thought. And I didn't understand why he would do that. And so he told me, well, we don't use instruments. And I was like, why? And so then we got into a theological argument over instruments.
What? But, really?
Yeah, we did. Just trying to use the Bible to prove our points. And that was kind of my realization that, hey, maybe these names on the front of these different churches actually mean something, right? And there's actually diversity within the Christian expression. And so I wanted to know, what did the first Christians do? And that kind of led me on a rabbit trail of all sorts of YouTube videos, just and reading different things. But it was essentially a crisis of faith, because I realized I only believe what I believe because I've been told this growing up. Oh. And that's not really a good reason to believe something. Yeah.
We believe gravity exists.
We do.
Because we've been told all our life, and we've been told to, don't belch at the dining room table all our life.
That's right. I can also drop a pencil and see that it falls, but something as big a claim as like, hey, Christ rose from the dead. It's like, why do I believe that? Because the book tells me so, because my parents tell me so. It's like, I need to know if this is actually true.
So what was your investigation process out there? I mean, like you got in some Carmen Sandiego mode, or like Monk, maybe Encyclopedia Brown, Boy Detective, or Father Brown Mysteries from G.K. Chesterton? Which route did you take in your investigation?
One of the first books I read was The Case for Christ, because it's like, let's figure out, I was starting baseline. Like I didn't really assume anything. I was like, okay, did Jesus Christ exist? Did he rise from the dead? Let's solve that one first.
Okay.
And once we
very methodical.
Yeah. Once we hit that one, it's like, okay, I'm pretty convinced that this happened. It's like, what is it? What does it mean to be a Christian? Like, I believe this. What do I do now? Uh-huh. And so it's like, well, what did the people who knew Christ do? What did the people who knew Christ do? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I came upon was like this idea that there's a true presence in the Eucharist. And my experiences with communion were it's just a symbolic act. It wasn't done, I would say, very reverently. And so that was a pretty radical idea to me. And that led to a lot of some readings and a lot of YouTube videos, Catholic versus Protestant, just watching these scholars talk about these things. And that was one of the first things that I became convinced of, was like, early Christians believed the real presence existed. I have to go somewhere that believes that.
Whoa. And where did you stumble upon this real presence in the Eucharist of Jesus, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Holy Eucharist?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when I first came upon it. It was just looking at what early Christians believed, and somehow I came across this idea that they believed that Christ was actually present, in the bread and the wine.
And you didn't dismiss it as like, oh, that's just tomfoolery.
I wasn't dismissing anything, right?
You were not dismissing.
I wiped the slate clean. I was looking into other religions for a while. Islam, seriously.
You've read the Quran.
I've read part of it. I haven't read it cover to cover, but it interested me, and in some senses it appealed to me. It's very simple, right? You don't have to deal with the whole Trinity. It's just like one God, it's monotheism. Like, hey, that seems like really easy to follow, and it's just like a really simple way of life, I felt like. And so, I don't know. It also got rid of the whole God becoming man. You don't have to deal with that.
You don't have to deal with the incarnation.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with that stuff. And so it kind of just appealed to me. But once we wrote that one off, it's like, okay, what did the first Christians believe?
Oh. And what were some first sources? Chris and I talked about some sources. What were some sources that you read that were like, this so good?
I
don't know why I got an English
I couldn't even give you the names of the fathers I read, but I would just find myself on the internet, like looking up. There's some websites that just have listings of like the early church fathers and like what they say about particular topics. Yeah. And so you just go down them and like read, what did they say about Christ's presence in the Eucharist?
So you Googled like early church fathers, Eucharist quotes.
Yeah. I don't know if I knew the term church fathers, was probably early Christians.
But you
I believe.
Yeah. Early Christians, Eucharist. Mm-hmm. And you'd find stuff like the Didache. And you're like, what is this? I've never heard of this.
It was all new to me, and it was fascinating. And it was just very, I didn't know anything about church history. Like, I couldn't tell you who St. Augustine was. No idea.
Other than a beach town on the east side of Florida?
Yeah, something like that. I had no idea who he was. All these names were new to me. I knew... essentially my church history started at like, Martin Luther, but I really couldn't even tell you that much about him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're doing all this, and this is your senior year of high school or your freshman year of college?
This is my senior year of high school. And as that year wraps up, this same youth pastor that I had mentioned previously, he invites me to go to another summer camp.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to go, but
reluctant.
I was just like right at the age limit. I was like, I got to go with all these little kids. But it's like, okay, he's done a lot for me. He wants me to go. I'll go.
He thinks it'll be good for you.
He thinks it'll be good for me.
Okay.
So I go, and
Is it here in the state of Oklahoma or out of state?
it was here in Oklahoma. I don't remember what town it was. It was put on by Assemblies of God,
Okay.
I believe. But I go to that, and as I have all these things on my mind,
Because you think about stuff.
Yeah,
Like, when you and I are chatting, you have you don't have an endless supply of stuff you've been thinking on, but you have a long list of stuff you've been thinking on.
Yeah.
So boom, all this stuff of early church fathers, where you've been, religion, Eucharist, and like, is there multiple Christian denominations? Is this a different expression of Christianity? Oh, what about Islam? It's really simple. That's all going on.
That's going on, and it's sort of just on my heart as I'm going to this Christian camp. And one night they're having the worship service, and in between the songs, the lead singer, she takes the mic, and she says, "I feel like there's a Trevor in the room."
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. This is the lead singer that does what?
This is the lead singer during the worship service.
Of like praise and worship, and she just takes the mic.
Yeah, in between songs, and says, "I feel like there's a Trevor in the room."
She says your name.
She says my name. Yeah, which, it catches your attention.
Yeah. I mean, I know like 3 Trevors in a 10-year period in campus ministry.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a Trevor in the room.
What did you do? Did your eyes
shoot up, I pay attention, it's like, okay, I'm Trevor, I'm in the room. So I feel like there's a Trevor in the room, and he needs to know that the Lord's house has many rooms. And she says that as I'm kind of pondering this over my heart, like, do I become Catholic? I don't know what to do. Like, I would really appreciate a sign, God, because all my family's Protestant. There's no ex-Catholics. There's no lapsed Catholics. There's nothing. It's all Protestant, like through and through. And so she says that, and I honestly, I didn't know what it meant. It didn't answer my question. I was like, God, if you could have just said, Trevor, be Catholic, or Trevor, don't be Catholic, like, I would have known exactly what to do in this situation. But
you were expecting her to be like, and there's a Trevor in the room, and I just got a message from the Lord, become Catholic. And you'd have been, yes! That'd have been it. Sealed the deal.
That would have been super easy to follow.
Background music slowly playing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so I found her after it was over, talked to her, asked her exactly what she heard. She said just that. That morning while she was praying, she felt like there was going to be a Trevor that night, and she needed to say that during worship service.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Feeling get my goosebumps.
Yeah. So over the next couple days, still at the camp, just like running it through my mind. What does it mean? The Lord's house has many rooms. And I didn't know. And that was kind of frustrating. And so I kind of just tried to dismiss it. It's like, must have been a different Trevor in the room, and that must have answered his question.
Yeah.
But I couldn't dismiss it. And I just kind of was like, okay, either the Lord's house has many rooms. It doesn't matter how you express your faith, or the Lord's house has many rooms. It's okay to pursue this route.
Oh,
and
okay.
That's
distinguish.
Yeah, that's kind of, to be honest, I still don't know exactly what that message means. I don't think I will know until I die. That's just a feeling I have. But so anyway, a couple nights later, this is the same camp. They have, after the worship service or after the message, I'm not sure, they had like an altar call, right? Like where you go up and have people pray for you. And so I found this guy. Never talked to him in my life before. Haven't talked to him since. Just asked him to pray for me, because I didn't know where to go. And I can't remember his exact words, but it was something along the lines of, Lord, I pray that whichever path you would have Trevor go down would be as clear as a neon sign in darkness. And yeah, he said that. And at that moment, it's hard to explain whenever you don't actually conjure an image in your mind. It just comes to you. But it was the Catholic Church, as if it was written in light bulbs, like on Broadway in darkness. And so, bang, just right in my mind.
Like as he's praying for you.
Yeah, as he says those words. Right then it
Stop.
happens. Yeah.
Shut up, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you saw the words Catholic.
Yeah, the Catholic Church. Those words exactly.
This guy
as if
prayed
spelled out.
so twice in 24 hours. Someone said something who you did not know was like, Trevor, there's a room and God's got many houses in this, many rooms in this house. First. Then the next night, dude's praying over you.
Yeah, 2 nights later. But yeah.
2 nights later. And wherever path you want to lead Trevor, let it be as bright as a neon sign.
Yeah, exactly.
And then whammo, it happened that instantly.
It happens. And so I go back and sit down.
Okay, like, by the way, this has never happened to me.
Yeah.
Just so you know. And I would love to have a neon sign or someone say, Kerry, just shut up and go to seminary.
Yeah.
Quit dancing around the subject and goob and running all over the country. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, it happened. And so I went and sat back down and was like, okay, like this is what I'll do. Talked to my youth pastor. He was actually really supportive.
I thought maybe you were going to be like a Gideon who was like, oh, well, Lord, okay, no, let me try you again. If you could have it in a neon sign backwards, and if you could do that, that would be great. And make it blink neon. The Gideon when he's like, okay, Lord, you got some on this side. Now, could you get it on the sand and not on the blanket?
Yeah, I love that story. It's very human to have a literal miracle from God and say, "Oh, just do it one more time."
Just do it one more
so
time, but make it more difficult.
Yeah. But so that happened, and just prayed about it. I don't know what to do now. There's one Catholic church in Paul's Valley. Mm-hmm. I didn't really want to go there, to be honest, for other reasons. And so I was just like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And so just felt like, you get to Stillwater. This was, I knew at this point I was going to be coming, start of school. Find the Catholic priest there, talk to him. So I get on, look up Catholic Church Stillwater, find St. John's website. I see your picture. I send you an email, I think.
Did I respond to your email?
You did respond to my email eventually. I think it was like several days later.
Okay.
But you did, yeah, you did respond. And we scheduled a time to meet. This was my second day on campus. I don't know if you remember this. We met. We went for a walk around campus. We went to the student union, sat down, and then I told you this story. And I don't even remember what you said. You're just like, wow, okay. And
started, like you totally distracted and socialized with 9 other people?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, then that happened. Yeah. That story is real.
Yeah. So started going to Mass on Sundays at first, and then started going every day. And yeah, that's how we're here now, with a big gap in between. But yeah.
And that transports us to this. Wow. Okay. That's okay. Now, this is my second question for all this. Why would 45,000 people think that's interesting?
I don't know. I guess maybe it's a little bit out there. I mean, conversion stories are always interesting, right? Like seeing what happens to the human heart. We're humans. We like to know what goes on in other humans. So there's something that we can connect with there. Why it blew up, I don't know. Like when I put it up, it probably had 100 views for the first 3 months. And then all of a sudden it just spiked and it just started hitting. I don't know YouTube's algorithms, but for some reason it's found its way in there.
Wow. And what did you include in that video that you didn't talk about right now?
I've never actually watched the video. So
you don't know what you said?
I definitely read it all. I wrote it all out because I wanted to make sure. I want to make sure I have everything in here that's happened to me. So I wrote it out and read it on the computer as I was going through it. But it was just my conversion story. There's nothing that comes to mind that I left out that I didn't just tell you right now.
So we expect now 45,000 people to listen to this show. So if 45,000 people don't, Trevor?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not in control of that.
I'm not in control of that. Okay. Well, okay. Now you're Catholic. You went through the catechumenate. You went through our CIA program. You went through our Catholicism, rite of Christian initiation of adults. Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you love about being Catholic? So one, that's it. Like, what's like a couple of things you're like, I love this about being Catholic. And two, how has becoming Catholic, entering into the fullness of the church, then ushered on this like life of prayer and becoming even. I think people built your foundation of being a disciple of the Lord, like that guy at the who asked you to go to summer camp, the second guy, and your sister. How has your faith life grown since then?
So taking the first question first, what do I love about being Catholic? I mean, there's not really a wrong answer to that, and there's probably also like a really textbook answer that you could give, like the Catechism would give. This is why you should be Catholic, but something that comes to mind is just like I like being connected to something bigger than myself, and I like being connected to something that has history going all the way back to Jesus Christ and even beyond, right, into the Old Testament. Like I feel it's just it's a weird feeling, especially like whenever you help serve Mass, like as an altar boy. It's like, man, I just feel connected to all the Old Testament prophets who used to go into the temple and worship in the Holy of Holies, because that's what we have access to right here in the Eucharist. And so that's just one thing that comes to mind. The second question.
Whoa, give me a second thing that you love about being Catholic.
Another thing that I love about being Catholic is, I mean, sort of something I've discovered recently is I love the universality of the church, right? Like, I'm particularly interested in Eastern Christianity. Yeah. I love that Catholicism has that other branch, right? And we have all these unique expressions of the faith. It's truly universal. I mean, as opposed to, say I was Russian Orthodox, like maybe there's somewhat of a connection with the other Orthodox churches, right? But primarily I am Russian Orthodox, whereas I'm Catholic. I'm part of the whole, right? So like I can go to a Latin Mass and I can go down the street to a Byzantine Mass and we're all one.
Yeah. Like Syro Malabar. You can go to these, like you can hear people speak the language of from India, different cultural languages. The Ambrosian rite. There's all these different rites and different sort of branches to the one tree that is Catholic. Yeah,
I love the more like unique expressions within different areas, but they're all connected to the whole. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So now, second question was how is this? With the big umbrella variety of things in the Catholic world, like what has helped grow your faith life and relationship with the Lord Jesus and kind of being brought into the kingdom of the Heavenly Father?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's really changed as opposed to whenever I first converted was a lot of my conversion was intellectual.
Okay.
Right? It's like, okay, Catholics have better answers on this question than I do, so I'm going to go with them. And it also introduced me to people like St. Thomas Aquinas, where it's like, wow, there's actually a really strong scholasticism in the church. And so that really drew me in, but I sort of have I don't want to say negative, but somewhat negative view, actually, of like mysticism. And so reading the church mystics and like the mystery, I mean, that drew me into something way deeper, and that's really grown with my prayer life and just trying to experience God, and also a change of mind. It's like, it doesn't matter what argument I put down on paper that God exists, you have to experience it in the heart, and that's where true change happens. So it's like the intellectual side brought me to the table, but the mystery is what keeps me fed.
Wait, hold on a second. Say that again.
The intellectual side of the faith brought me to the table, but it's the mystery that keeps me fed.
Did you make that up?
I don't know. I mean, I think I've definitely said that to people before. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, it's either yours, you heard it somewhere, or you made it yours from hearing it somewhere, or some sort of combination. But the intellectual side brought you to the table. The mystery keeps you fed.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant. Give the people, we have 30 seconds left. Give them one thing that maybe they should study this summer to grow in their faith, to come to the table and more deeply be fed.
Yeah, it's kind of tough in Oklahoma because we don't really have a Byzantine church here, but just if you haven't been to a divine liturgy, go. Like, see the whole other lung of the church breathing in action, because it is beautiful.
Or find some Eastern Catholic writings as well.
Yeah, those work.
Wow. Okay. Trevor Allee. Thanks, man. And you can check out his video. Just Google Trevor Allee on YouTube and you'll find his stuff. And so pray for Father Brian O'Brien as he journeys back to Stillwater, America, and have a fantastically beautiful summer here in Stillwater or wherever you are these days. Peace.